In episode 5 of season 1 of Good Omens, Crowley drives the Bentley into the burning ring of fire that used to be the M25 in order to get out of London and make it to the Tadfield airbase, as Aziraphale requested. God states outright that Crowley has something no other demons have, especially Hastur, an imagination. It's this special attribute that keeps Crowley from discorporating in the fire, as Hastur does, but also keeps the Bentley holding together and functioning, though it's completely ablaze for the entire drive. Well, I have a whole host of questions. Why does Crowley, alone among demons, have an imagination? When did he get it? Did he always have it, going back to the beginning, or did he acquire it later? How did he acquire it? Do angels have imaginations? Does Aziraphale? How does imagination translate, essentially, to a power so miraculous that it protects Crowley and the Bentley, at least for a while? And will this power, imagination, possibly play a role in the finale? Where to even begin? I think, as they say in The Sound of Music, let's start at the very beginning. That's a very good place to start. What is imagination? Imagination is defined as the action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses, or the ability of the mind to be creative or resourceful. In the beginning, we see Crowley in charge of rolling out the physical laws of the universe. Based on this and later conversations, we know he didn't do so alone, but was part of a team that did the design work together, more of a technician than an Imagineer. But I do think he shows a budding imagination here all the same. I would argue that his idea for a suggestion box fits both of the definitions of imagination. There's no suggestion box when he comes up with the idea, and even the act of making suggestions seems novel and creative. Aziraphale, on the other hand, does not seem able to imagine the suggestion box, at least not at this point in his existence. Satan, who rebelled against God, must also have imagined something different than what God was creating, and although technically also a demon, I think they are in a whole other category, so I won't hold it against God here. I'll let the point go. But Crowley already displays some imagination here. Not enough yet to hold a burning Bentley together, but still something. So how and when did it grow into a full imagination? And why don't the other angels and demons experience something similar? Angels and demons are of the same stock after all, so I think we can safely assume that most angels lack imagination the same way that most demons do. But I would also argue that all of the angels and demons show potential imaginations, the ability to grow and learn and develop an imagination just like Crowley does. Eric displays a sense of humor that demonstrates a budding imagination.
It's gonna be one big avocado.
But for the most part, angels and demons seem to believe the universe and their purpose in it to be what they are taught. Heaven and hell must have their war. There's a great plan, and everything they do must follow that plan. Angels and demons are enemies. Talking too much will get you sent to the dung pits, or worse. The Book of Life can erase creatures from creation itself. They believe what they are told, and they don't really imagine much outside of that. So, what makes Crowley different from the hosts of both heaven and hell? For the most part, the demons remain in hell, as the angels do in heaven. If they venture to earth, it's for a very specific purpose. Tempt a priest, create some human strife, deliver the Antichrist. They do not stick around and interact long-term with humanity or with earthly objects. And when they do, well, let's take Shax for instance. We see her in the past, back in the 1940s. She is incurious and only interested in plotting and conniving to increase her own position. Once she takes over Crowley's position as Hell's representative on Earth in London, she maintains her core self, the one that wants more power, but she starts to exhibit some new traits, namely curiosity. What is sarcasm? How does the boilerplate in the apartment work? I think that exposure to things outside of their hellish, or in the case of angels, heavenly, bubbles engages their natural curiosity. And although curiosity is not inherently the same as imagination, it is a natural consequence of it. How does this work? Leads to, what if it worked this way? Or didn't work at all? What if? The freedom to express curiosity without having one's tongue removed at least opens the door and allows one to take the first steps into the realm of imagination. Crowley was not initially given that freedom. None of the angels and demons were. Even after being cast down, the demons stayed in their roles and simply became subjugated to a new master. It isn't until Crowley is free of the constant conditioning of heaven and hell that he finds himself in possession of a fully developed imagination. The value of imagination. Imagination, not intelligence, made us human. Sir Terry Pratchett, from the foreword of the Ultimate Encyclopedia of Fantasy by David Pringle. Humans place a high value on imagination. There are so many stories that hold the power of imagination in very high regard, like The Polar Express, Peter Pan, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
Many of these are aimed at children, as we nurture and encourage our young to develop their budding imaginations. But there are a growing number aimed at adults, reminding us not to lose the wonder and creativity as we grow older. Hook, Christopher Robin, The Matrix, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, all of these stories celebrate imagination as an almost supernatural, magical quality. Authors who are themselves usually purveyors of imagination tend to hold it in particularly high regard. Giving Crowley this valued thing, this symbol of strength, creativity, and freedom of thought, is a way to convey to the audience that Crowley is indeed very special. This coveted human trait is something he could only gain when he had the freedom to live among humans, no longer beholden to either side. Imagination is the ultimate symbol of Crowley's defiance of heaven and hell's norms, and a clear indication of not only his freedom, but the power gained in that freedom. It was Octarine, the color of magic. It was alive and glowing and vibrant, and it was the undisputed pigment of the imagination, because wherever it appeared it was a sign that mere matter was a servant of the powers of the magical mind. It was enchantment itself, but Rincewind always thought it looked a sort of greenish purple. The Color of Magic, Sir Terry Pratchett. In the Discworld series, Terry Pratchett directly equates imagination with magic. The color of magic is the color of imagination. I believe this theme carries over from that universe into the Good Omens universe. As a demon, Crowley has occult abilities and access to miracles of the hellish sort. He can, as he says, do proper magic. He can shift into snake form, he can stop time. But it isn't a hellish miracle or a property of his demonic nature that grants him the ability to survive the fire on the M95 or to hold together his precious Bentley and make it to Tadfield. Instead, it is Octarine, his magical imagination. In Season 2, the Bentley is sentient, notably so when it is not in Season 1. Why? Well, I have a theory. While it could be because Adam restored it, he restored a lot of things, and none of them became sentient. The Bentley is very special to Crowley, and he held it together, willing it into continued existence with every ounce of strength he had. He also speaks to the Bentley during this sequence.
You are my car. I've had you from new. You are not going to burn. Don't even think of it.
I personally think the Bentley is sentient because of this unique magical imaginary moment. The car Crowley imagined could think about giving up. It could hear him and respond. The car Adam restored was already the one Crowley had created in his imagination. And speaking of Adam, he's another great example of a character with a magical imagination. The power he is given when he officially becomes the Antichrist is that of making what he imagined into reality. Much of what happens in the penultimate episode of Season 1 is due to Adam's passive imagining, in his dreams. His youth and creativity, with a dash of help from Anathema's magazines, caused some really wild creations. Duck-billed aliens, sea monsters, lost islands, those are just the beginning. I've seen so many fans wonder what's up with the bush in the garden at the end of Season 1. Adam, no longer the Antichrist and confirmed a normal boy as far as Aziraphale can tell, escapes his garden prison when a bush miraculously disintegrates, allowing him to chase after Dog. Is he still part Antichrist, supernatural in some way? Well, my theory is that this scene is meant to reflect Adam and Eve leaving the garden in the first episode. They left with the aid of knowledge of good and evil. I believe Adam retains a little bit of the magic of his own imagination. There is a message here that if we can imagine it, we too can make it real. I know that Terry Pratchett held this idea close to his heart. Crowley and Adam, and arguably some other characters like Anathema, use imagination as a tool that helps them end the apocalypse and restore the people and things they love. It's a timely message of hope, not to give up. Even if it seems like everything is a dumpster fire, we just have to hold on and keep imagining a better, brighter future. As a matter of fact, when everything is on fire is when we need to imagine the hardest with all our strength, keep trying to will it into existence. I do think Aziraphale shows imagination, otherwise how could he perform human magic? It would be due to the same influences that Crowley has experienced. Being on Earth, being free to explore his own curiosities, would allow him to develop an imagination. And I do think that imagination, both Aziraphale's and Crowley's, may play an important part in the finale. What do you think? Do you think we'll see imagination play an important part? I would really love to hear your thoughts about this subject down in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I really hope you enjoyed this video on imagination and Good Omens, and Crowley's imagination specifically. If you're enjoying my content, it would be nice if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. With the filming of the finale beginning here in just a little over a month, I'm doing weekly news roundups on most Mondays, and I post theories and analysis on Thursdays. I've branched outside of Good Omens, and I will continue to do so now and then as I find the time and interest. Thank you to my patrons who make all of this possible, including my newest members, Krista and Ert, my new Ineffable tier patron, Katie Finnegan, my other Ineffable tier patrons, Madman D, Georgiana and Georgia Washington, and Bildad tier member Auntlis, whose idea it was for this particular video topic. Thank you, of course, to all of my friends and family for continuing to support me, and to you, dear viewers, who keep this channel alive, thanks for watching!